Hello, everyone, and welcome to Webinar Wednesdays with the MSC program. We have a special treat for you today. Our topic is the MSC Capstone project. It's a very dynamic piece of the MSC curriculum and something that I believe differentiates us from a lot of other programs. And here with us to unpack the capstone is Dr. Amy Hauenstein of the MSC program. Amy earned her bachelor's degree from The Ohio State University, a master's in education from Hauenstein, and a PhD in curriculum studies from DePaul, and is largely responsible for the creation of the capstone project in general. And so nobody better qualified to talk to us about this exciting piece of the MSC curriculum. And I will hand it over to Amy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. All right, everyone. Okay. So, as Toby said, this is me. I've been a part of MSC since 2015 officially. Before that, I consulted with the program. So I feel like I have a long history with it. And the capstone, as Toby said, was something that I helped design and we launched in the year 2016. Going to go through some of the more sort of academic version, some approach to it from the academic side. And then I think the best way to describe and show it to you is by showing you some of the products. So bear with me while I get through some of the more stuffy academic part, just to give you some context of how it fits into our curriculum, but then we'll take a look at some actual samples, and I think that gives you a better flavor of it. So the capstone is 1 credit. It's the last credit you earn in the program. It integrates all of the coursework and your experiences. It's something that you sort of chip away at all year long. It's this ongoing large scale project. In many graduate programs, there's a graduate thesis or a large paper that you write. And for an applied program, we just didn't feel like that was that applicable or valuable. While you certainly do research in the program and you learn to think like a researcher, just simply writing a paper didn't feel representative of what we expect you to know and do, how we expect you to behave, and the things we hope that you value after being a part of the program. So our capstone takes all of that into consideration, and it is a giant large-scale project, and you leave with a tangible product. It really starts with thinking about you, what you want out of grad school, why you're here. That evolution through the year changes a fair amount, or maybe is complicated or becomes more sophisticated. It's one of those cases where you don't quite know what you don't know, and until you dive in, it's kind of hard to put your thumb on. So we think of your brand or the narrative version of you at the intersection of your academic experience, and that's MSC plus your undergrad, professional certificates that you might have, workshops that you as a learner. Then we think of it as your professional experience, what you've done in the workforce, the skills that you have, the companies you've worked for, the job titles you've held, the job titles you hope to hold, your aspirations in your profession, and then also your personal experiences, who you are at the core, what are your values, have you traveled, what's your family like, just who you are. And if we can find the sort of middle, the intersection of that, that's where we, for the purposes of this project, focus on you as a brand. So our capstone, as I mentioned, is an ongoing applied project, and there are 3 different parts to it. We call them components. The first is a visual portfolio. So you're going to leave with a full-scale website branded to you or to a business that you are pursuing. In component 2, you really are sort of showcasing what you can do. And then in the last part, it's really your professional identity. It's the building of that brand. It's assets related, collateral related to that brand. We'll look at each one of these here. So in component 1, you are designing a personal website, and it sort of serves as the hub for this product. It is where you're going to put content that you're building. It's where you are going to visually present who you are. Here's what it looks like inside of our Canvas portal, which is our learning management system. It's basically like an internal website where you're going to turn in assignments and that sort of thing. And as you can see, we have a series of learning outcomes, some promises to you about what you'll be able to do when you graduate, when you earn this degree. And in component 1, we really care about you being able to articulate how the field of study of communications shows up in your life, shows up in your work. We want you to be able to apply the communication-centered scholarship, the academic knowing, to your own work, to your practice. And we believe that you can do that through the series of assignments that are tied to the visual portfolio. Then I mentioned the part 2 of our capstone is an applied project. And there are 2 ways that you can choose to complete or satisfy this requirement. One is doing a case interview. And a case interview is an exercise in applying what you know to a real life problem. So 24 hours in advance of your appointment, we send you a case, which is a story that has a problem in it. And you have then 24 hours to come up with your informed advisement. How would you tell the company of the story that you would tackle that problem? You create a presentation, you show up as though it were an interview, you're a consultant and they're the client, and you perform. You tell them what you would advise, and then you answer some questions, and you get feedback on that. So you get feedback on your application of knowledge, and you also get feedback on your public presentation or performance. The second version of this project or option in this project is sort of a traditional research paper. Usually this is around a work project or a work problem. And by work, I mean that loosely. It could be somewhere you volunteer. It could be something in your life. It could be something in your community. But we create a small committee around you of faculty who help you undertake a research project. So it's more of a traditional type thesis. So in this one, you get the option to pick which one that you would like to do. Case interviews are held a couple times a year, and you know well in advance, you sign up for it, and then the applied research project is something that you sort of scope out with your faculty chair. And again, here's where that is really derived from, and what we care is that you can demonstrate that you can assess problems and provide solutions. We care that you can address challenges and either assemble teams or think about solutions, create some findings and recommendations, so that, again, we're an applied program. We care deeply that what we're teaching you is something of value to others, of value to you, of value to your organizations. And then the last piece is really that professional identity. And this is a media kit, basically. So it's going to have things like a headshot. It's going to have things like a really thoughtful, concise resume. We have something we call a leave behind, which is in a scenario where you are at an interview, you leave this document behind as sort of a branded piece of who you are. It's a sort of a sister to a resume. We work on your value proposition. We work on camera skills so that you can record in a really professional way some videos. So all of these pieces then ultimately land in your website because, as I mentioned, that's where you're going to house a lot of this stuff. But we think about this media kit as, you know, intricate pieces of the puzzle that when put together is you, is your brand. So each piece tells a part of the story. It doesn't duplicate the story. And at the same time, each becomes sort of a standalone document. So they have to be able to work on their own, but they also have to contribute to the larger story. And as I've shown you through this, we want you to be able to critically analyze messages and create and deliver elegant messages appropriate to the audience, purpose, and context. That part's really key to us, is that when you are, recording a video of your value proposition, you're defining who the audience is. It's really difficult to be everything to everyone. So part of this is also thinking about brand positioning. Who is it that you're talking to specifically, so that you can tailor the message to them? And then where does the capstone fit in all of this? So you're going to take your courses proper with Northwestern faculty and industry experts. You have access to the faculty and of course those industry experts as part of your team, as part of your new network. You have access to the MSC staff, who each have our own contributions to the program. We have co-curricular programs, such as one in particular that's really valuable to students is called Creative Branding and Design. And we sort of deem it as a design class for non-designers, so that you can become sort of functionally literate with things like Photoshop or Adobe InDesign. You can think about color theory and logos, and as you're creating your own website, those things become really important. In our co-curriculum, we have lots of skill-based workshops. We have topic-based workshops. Other industry experts come in to work with you. So it's really, it supports everything that you're doing in sort of the deeper, richer study of the coursework. And the capstone's at the middle of it. So if we sort of add all of this up together, including the MSC Alumni Association, who come in to coach you on, your resume. They become sources of inspiration. Some of them give talks about where they've gone with their professions or goals after the program. And so the capstone's the center of it. It's how you specifically, you're doing your capstone for you, not for us, how you define your year, what you want to do with all that you are learning. And it becomes this showpiece for you to leave the program tangible evidence of a year long of work in an accelerated program at a prestigious university. So we say, this is it. It's your time. It's a culmination of all the learning, studying, collaborating, and growing. It's your opportunity to define who you are and what you've become during the program, and know that it's organic and ever evolving. Many of our alum continue to work on their capstone, their websites after they leave. So I want to show you some examples, as I promised, so that you can get an idea of what all of this looks like. have them pulled up here and share. So here we are. This is Kathy Toll's website, her visual portfolio, her part one of her project. And she creates a nice welcome. She positions herself in her academic expertise. This is a short bio that's part of component 3. She gives herself some, brand in this, and saying that she's always hunting for the perfect shade of red lipstick. The whole idea of this is to capture who you are at your essence, at your core, and share it with others. We do have some requirements on this, and are things like we have you write a annotated bibliography, which becomes a resource library for you. And while it is the bane of some people's existence during the program, you can see Kathy here has a great sense of humor. Here are 50 absolutely delightful annotations where this is work that she completed all year long. And as you can see, it's a short paragraph about one of the readings that she read this year. So it is not painful, I promise you, but it does take time. It is a little tedious. But at the end of this, you have an example, because walking the walk is so much more important than talking the talk. We can actually position you as an academic expert. This is the evidence that you are indeed an academic expert. And again, the same here. She has work samples. She has some examples of work that she did in the program from different classes, as well as you're welcome to add work examples from your actual workplace. So here is a model that she built after learning from one of the professors about it, the way she's applying it, and the end. So your website becomes yours. You're going to see several different here. Let me find. This is Gabrielle Turina. She largely works in government and the nonprofit sector. You can see how she's decided. She's created a biography page for her where she has a full downloadable bio. She's created other tabs for you to pull away her resume and work experience where you can download it. She was using this as a lever in seeking another job. She wanted a promotion. She wanted to work in a different industry. And at the same time, what we learned from Gabrielle is that, again, these are skills that we hope that you obtain so that you can continue to apply them. She built an entirely new website because she decided shortly after graduating that she was going to run for alderman in Rockford. And she created a new brand. She has her own song, why she's running. So she put those same skills that she accredits to learning in the program to the Capstone project itself, and continued to grow. So she still has her original website that she built in the program. She just continued to build on it and take it in a different direction. This is one of our international students who was looking to stay in the US and work post-graduation. And again, she was really interested in job seeking. So hers was really sort of formatted for the industry that she was interested in pursuing. And she used a lot of video in hers, in part to address concerns potentially of her ability to read, write, speak in English. She was fearful that her name might turn some people off. So she took a head-on strategy and said, let me show you. So she created lots of video on her website. This is another option, and that is one of our recent alum decided that rather than having a personal website, he wanted to start a small consulting business. And so his business is called 24 in Between, from A to Z and everything in between. His name is Adam Zetter, A to Z. And this is where he, makes his pitch that he's the right consultant to work with you. He labeled his What I've Been Reading, that annotated bibliography, that evidence of being an academic expert, What I've Been Reading, and he lists them here. So you can see even choices about how you put them into your design are completely up to you. Kathy Toll had hers open up in a PDF, and it sort of was a downloadable document. Each one of these looks like a blog post, and those are the readings that Adam had done in the program. He also labeled What I've Been Doing, and that's where he has work samples and some other documents about how he could contribute if you were to hire him in the process. Still yet, other students have even more narrow focus, and that is former student alum Gary Tsai. He very specifically wanted to work as a game designer at Google. So you can see he was not subtle in going after Google. Everything in here is written to that effect. Lo and behold, he's working for Google. And then last but not least, I want to show you one more, and that is another alum who really was starting to think differently about the work that she does. She currently works for University of Michigan, the School of Engineering. She's their director of communication, and she was interested in thinking more broadly about that community, and really showing that in addition to being an expert in communications, the act of communicating with audiences, she was also really a strategist and an expert in teams, some things that she developed while she was here. And with that, I want to finish with just taking any questions that you might have about our capstone project.
Feel free to either unmute yourselves or type any questions that you have in the chat. I can get it going too with the second component, having the choice between the case interview and the applied research project. How does the program advise students in making that choice?
Yeah, it's to some degree we do some coaching on what are your goals. If you are considering making a change or seeking a promotion or trying to do something that you've not yet evidenced that you can do, we often sort of counsel you into doing the applied research project, because under the care and guidance of faculty, you could produce a project that you've maybe not done yet, right? So if the next job that you want is, let's see, you've been in sort of traditional marketing and PR, but you've never really put together a persuasive campaign. But but you know you could. So you might create a project around persuasive campaigns and conduct one or produce one here, again, under the guidance of faculty, and that becomes a work sample. All of a sudden now, when you go to interview with those jobs, you have evidence that you can actually do them. So if you're thinking about switching industries or looking for, you know, an advancement and you want some evidence that you can do the job that you've not yet done, we often counsel you to do that applied research project. It does take more time also, and we're also realists that you're working, you have families, you have other obligations. So in some cases, we also, we have, you know, conversations about, do you have the time to do this? Because while the case interview showcases the same skills, it is over quickly. You have about 24 to maybe 36 hours of stress getting it together and performing it and, you know, revising it, but then it is like, check, I'm done.
Yeah, I can speak to the other side. So I've had an opportunity to observe dozens, if not at least 100 or so of the case interviews by now, and they're just tremendous. I mean, it's a great opportunity for people to showcase what they've internalized, because you can't relearn an entire quarter's worth of material, right, in 24 hours. And so what do you know? What are the things that you actually have internalized and can present on? And they're fun to watch, as stressful as they might be for the students.
Yeah, and I want to add too, on the case interview, they're really authentic to the workforce right now. If you're considering consulting or if you are looking at consulting firms, they're real ordinary challenges that those places have you take under or take on to apply for the job or to, you know, bid as a consultant on projects.
Great. I see a hand raised. Mr. Rowley.
Hello all. Amy, thanks Toby. Amy, that's just terrific. It's a great presentation. For those on the call who don't know, I'm one of the alums who hears we're going to be doing the part of the Capstone project in about 10 or 12 days, where where alums will critique students. And I'm really looking forward to that. This background now on the Capstone, the overview, I see the whole picture much better. I came from an era, class of 2013, where we didn't have this capstone work. We had other things. And since then, Amy's included a lot of the alumni in personal branding sessions and crisis communications workshops and other things that have been very useful for continuing education. So just an endorsement from an alum. Also, if you were to produce a website, what would you recommend? If you were an older person, semi-retired, starting your own consultancy, and had thought a long time about having your own website, and you knew all the content that you wanted to do, what would you suggest would be an easy sort of web-based, do-it-yourself almost website? Or would you recommend hiring a consultant to help you put it together? Self-interested question, sorry.
No. You know, we guide our students towards using Squarespace or Wix. They're very simple. They're free, first of all, unless you want bells and whistles. They're drag and drop types of websites, so you don't have to have any coding background. They have tons and tons of templates that you can customize by color and, you know, your own content, your own, you know, tab names, that sort of thing. All of the websites that I showed you were built on one of those places. So I don't think anyone in the examples I showed actually, you know, coded or made a WordPress, something that's a little more complicated than those.
Excellent. And just follow up, are many of the folks on this call students, Amy and Toby? Are they current students or prospective students?
It looks like it's a mix. It's mostly prospective students.
Prospective students. Okay, super.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amy. It's really, really interesting to hear the overview of what it all entails and how the individual pieces fit together. So thank you.
We got a question in the chat, Amy, asking essentially kind of what role the capstone or different pieces of the capstone might play in somebody that's interested in switching careers?
Yeah. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to switching careers is convincing yourself that you're ready to do that. And the capstone really is, our students joke all the time, like it's sort of therapy. It's a lot of self-study. It's a lot of figuring out who you are and how you should share that with others, how you tell your story. So a big portion of it for switching careers is defining that, and then also positioning yourself, showcasing that the skills that you carry, the academic skills, the professional skills, translate to this new industry. And when you are in charge of telling that story, it's much more convincible, much more persuasive, than allowing the receiver to decode all of that and try to make sense of it for you. So you're in the driver's seat at that point of telling the story of why, I've done X, which translates to Y, which is valuable to you this way. And all of a sudden you're the narrator instead of hoping that they can, make the dots make sense.
And there's also a connection with the Capstone Project and the Career Services team, right? So you will work with Pat Messina, career coach, on putting together your value proposition in such a way to target whatever it is you want to target, whether that's switching careers, advancement, starting your own consultancy, of the million other things that people decide to do. So there's a direct line between the career aspirations and the capstone in that case, in that sense as well.
Absolutely. And that professional circle and that Venn diagram is, a big part of working with our career coach and figuring out what is it about that experience that's valuable to you and others, and like what's your driving passion there. Then that academic circle, you have an academic advisor who helps you make sense of the courses you're taking and the skills that you're learning and how those sort of translate into all sort of spheres of your life. And then there's a lot of self-study in this program. You learn a lot about yourself as a communicator, yourself as a team member, yourself as a team leader, and that personal circle in the Venn diagram really starts to get filled out. You begin to be your inner voice that you're up on your shoulder kind of voice becomes clearer. Your story becomes clearer to you. And through it all, that the intersection of those is where the capstone lives.
Great. One last question is from Emily, asking if the capstone is the same for the hybrid and custom programs.
It is. It is. It's across both programs. The same faculty teach in both programs. It's slightly different sequences and delivery, but we are one MSC program and have the same learning outcomes, the same everything in both programs.
Great. Wonderful. Well, big thanks to Amy for joining us today. I always learn more. I've been watching the capstone evolve over the past 5 years, and I really think it's kind of a fun thing to talk about. As an alum myself, it's not something that I had an opportunity to participate in, same as Bob was saying, and I'm really jealous of the students that get to do it now. I think that an important piece of it, I really like Adam's website where he presents his annotations as kind of blog posts, and it's a signal to people on the outside what you've learned, but also, Bob and I are digging through spiral notebooks in cardboard boxes to remember what we learned, right? And to have this resource kind of at your fingertips that's searchable is really kind of a special thing. So I think that the capstone, like I said, it's dynamic. It differentiates us in a lot of different ways. And I think that if you're listening today, you're probably even more excited about an opportunity to join. So thank you very much to Amy. Some quick housekeeping. Next Wednesday's webinar, we have 3 fabulous MSC alumni talking about their careers in the consulting industry. And so Kathy Toll, actually, who we showcased here a little bit today, is going to be on a panel next week. as well as Greg Voller and Brian Moy, 3 alumni of the MSc program, talking about their careers in consulting. The week after that, I am presenting and talking about the application essay, kind of do's and don'ts. And it may be an incredibly selfish 30 minutes for me to help people with their writing and ideas for putting essays together that I get to read. But those are the next 2 weeks. And then we're filling out the schedule for the next month and a half or so, but excited that all of you could join us today. Big thanks for joining. Big thanks to Amy, and we hope everybody has a great day and that we can see you next week. Thanks a lot, everybody.